Tom Vasel. Welcome as we look at another shelf in the Dice Tower Library, shelf 9B. Alrighty, this is a thinner shelf, and that's good because there's a lot of small games here, many of them from one publisher. But before we get to those games, let's take a look here. First, we have Rivals of Catan. The deluxe version is the two-player version of the Settlers of Catan, but it's a very different game. It's a card game. In fact, it was called the Settlers of Catan card game back in the day. Excellent two-player game. If you don't like Catan, you still might like this. I like this way better than Catan. A great game. Nations is somewhere else in the library, but this is Nations, the dice game. I think Nations, the dice game is phenomenal. I'd rather play it over Nations, the game, any old time. You're essentially taking dice, using these dice to build a nation, rolling them to get the things you want. If you like dice chucking games and using dice to get resources, Nations is solid. And the expansion's good, and I have that included in the game. Majolica is kind of an abstract strategy game. A lot of people said it was the next Azul. I think it's a little too esoteric and odd, but I know a lot of people like it despite that. And it's a unique game. You're not going to find this in many places, but here it is in the library for those who want to play it. And speaking of esoteric games, Magic Fold is right there. Magic Fold, you have like basically a handkerchief, and you have to fold it up in different ways. So if you want to play something that no one else has ever played, Magic Fold is there for you. There's a lot of versions of this game, actually. This is the one I decided to put in the library. It has some magic things, and it also has a genie that looks remarkably like Z. Garcia. London. Wow, Osprey did a really good job with Martin Wallace's game here. An engine building game. I don't know what it is about London. I just don't like it. I think it's the corruption that's involved in the game. But that being said, it's a lot of people like it, and this is a very pretty version. So I suspect this one will be pulled off the shelves. Now we're going to get into a bunch of games from Garfield Games, except for this first one. Homebrewers is actually not from Garfield Games, but it's the same size as all his boxes. This is a game in which you're a bunch of homebrewers and having like a little competition between yourselves. Some really solid, it's a good mid-weight Euro-style game that I think a lot of people have missed, but is worth checking out. So first in the Garfield Games, we have Hadrian's Wall, which is one of the most complex roll and write games in existence. It's very solitaire. I like playing it, but I have no idea what I'm doing. A cool theme, it's kind of just there. But man, if you want something involved, this is what you're going to get. We then have the trilogy of games. So if we start over, the one in the middle is the one we'll start with first, the Architects of the West Kingdom. And in fact, today, as of me recording this, I upgraded the pieces in that one again. I wish these boxes were a little bigger, and in fact, they're coming out with a bigger version of Paladins for that, just because fitting all the stuff in is hard. But Architects is a worker placement game where you have tons of workers, but they can all get arrested and thrown in jail. Really cool, popular enough to have 2 copies. The sequel, Paladins, I also have 2 copies of, is very similar to that, but I put that one, it's more complex. Some people like it better. I'm included in those people who like it better. It is a little less thematic. You're just placing different color workers down, and it's like a point salad game, but pretty solid. The newest in this trilogy is Viscounts of the West Kingdoms. The one, right, well, you guys can see it there. Oh, my finger's too big. But I don't know that this one's as popular. So far, I'm going to keep just 1 copy of it. It has deck building, worker movement, a lot of different ideas in it, but we'll have to see if this one can catch the other 2 in popularity. Then we have the last game. The first game in their line is Raiders of the North Sea, and you can see I have 2 boxes for it, a small one and then a large one. The large one has both of the expansions, and I really like that. In fact, I wish all the boxes were that size. Raiders of the North Sea, another worker placement, but also worker removal game. You put 1 worker down, you pull 1 off, take the actions, load up, go out looting. Lots of fun. Raiders of Scythia, which is next to Paladins there, this is very similar. It's almost the same game, except it has horses and falcons, and it's a little bit better. In fact, it's better than Raiders without expansions. With expansions, Raiders worth better, and it might depend on which theme you want. And then we have the space game in between the 2 of them there, and this game is one that I think is worth checking out. It's very different than the other games on the list. And in fact, First Light, it has a different kind of artwork, a different style, and I just think that it's worth checking out. I like the Paladins, Architects, Viscounts trilogy. I like Raiders of the North Sea, although you notice that trilogy only Raiders is the one that made it in the mix. But this one, The Last Light, is kind of worth finding on your own. On this shelf, my favorite of all these games is probably Raiders of the North Sea with expansions. I like it a lot. What's your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, though, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching another Shelf in the Dice Tower Library.